All right, so right on time, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who is Kristin Bail. Kristin's the forest supervisor for the 3.8 million acre Okanagan-Wenatchee National Forest. And prior to arriving on the forest in September of 2019, she was the assistant director for the Bureau of Land Management's Resources and Planning. Kristin will be speaking to us about the Joint Chiefs Landscape Restoration Partnership. So Kristin, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Connie. How's my sound check?
Sounds good to me. Thank
All
you.
right. Well, you left out an important part of my bio and that I'm a Wazoo graduate, but I figured I'd be a friendly crowd here, so wanted to mention that. Hey, good morning, everyone. We've had some great speakers today, a lot of learning and shared information, and it's my pleasure to talk about another opportunity of shared stewardship, and that is the Joint Chiefs Landscape Restoration Partnership. And you know, this is a partnership that began in 2014 between the United States Forest Service and the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and both of them are led by chiefs, hence the Joint Chiefs moniker. And the goal is to, as we are talking about, you know, today, improve the health and resiliency of forest ecosystems, and a key part of that is where public and private lands meet, and to do it in partnership with landowners, the two agencies, NRCS and Forest Service, as well as numerous other partners that have joined in efforts over the years. So the opportunity and the goal is to leverage investments and really be a way to facilitate joint efforts by state and local municipalities, tribes, and other partners in the goal of landscape restoration. And this is truly, you know, all hands, all lands, regardless of land ownership, you know, looking at a broad landscape and a holistic approach. And the goals are not only wildfire threats and forest resiliency, but also protecting water quality and supply and improving habitat for at-risk species. And so the strength of this is, you know, of course, as with many other partnerships, you know, taking the technical and financial resources of all the agencies, as well as the diverse group of partners, and to coordinate their efforts in an intentional way, and to be able to both talk about and speak to what it is we want to accomplish together, and then also report out on what those accomplishments are. And so, you know, this is another example of a program and approach where it really recognizes that forest health issues and water quality issues, just they don't stop at property boundaries. They really do span those boundaries. And so I really am interested and excited about this program because of the broad scope of the objectives, which, as I said, you know, not only include wildfire threats, resiliency, but water quality and habitat. And there's been a whole lot of work done all over the country over the years since the program started in 2014. And just a little bit about kind of the mechanics of the program, so folks know about how it works. So each year, the agencies select new projects and may also fund existing projects, but they are done the intention is for them to have like a 3-year duration. So in any one year, you may be funding new projects as well as projects that happened a couple years back. Here in Washington State, there have been 2 funded projects. One is the Northeast Washington Initiative that was started in 2015, and that was in partnership on the Colville National Forest, and that received more than $3 million of funding. And then the second project happened on the Okanagan-Wenatchee National Forest, and along with other land ownerships, and that was the All Hands, All Lands, Building Resilient Landscape and Fire Adapted Communities in Washington's East Cascades. That was the full title of it. I'll call it the the East Cascades Project for short, just so I don't get tongue-tied. So the funding again comes from both agencies. And the NRCS uses funding through its environmental quality incentive programs, shorthand often referred to as EQIP, which, and then the U.S. Forest Service. The funds come from a variety of program areas, including state and private forestry. So you'll see a variety of federal funds joined together to fund this work. And these projects are proposed and funded at the national level, and they're intended to be additive to the local agency resources, not take away from what the local NRCS district or Forest Service forest has. So it's intended to be additive. And since 2014, 93 projects have been funded in 40 states and Puerto Rico. And I mean, that's a pretty impressive span of across the country. And again, being able to impact and improve both private land as well as federal land in those projects. And in just in fiscal year 21 alone, $46 million will be allocated to the projects that have been selected. So, we've been talking a lot about shared stewardship, both from the state perspective as well as the Forest Service, and, Paul's presentation about, all of the important issues that we're facing with forest health and resiliency. And so the Joint Chiefs is another partnership opportunity that, again, is coming around for funding. And we're right in the middle of thinking about developing proposals for the next round of funding, which would be starting in fiscal year 22. And the state of Washington is, I've worked in different parts of the country, and the state of Washington is very impressive and a great leader in terms of the clear direction that it has on forest health and wildfire risk reduction, and the development of the strategies and plans that address them. It's clear where the priorities are, and there's a clear commitment, as you definitely heard from George, a clear commitment to fulfilling those priorities in a partnership way. You'll notice when I talked about the Washington state projects that, I was talking about things that have happened a few years back. We haven't had a project here in Washington state in a few years, and based on the outreach that has been given to me, there seems to be some interest, and there definitely is a need. So, and of course, I get a tickle in my throat. We are very well positioned in Central Washington to be thinking about a proposal and competing for this funding. So, pardon me, some of you may be interested in what happened in the past, and I'm going to share some information about the East Cascades All Lands, All Hands project. And that project was funded for 3 years, 2017 through 2019. And it had an impressive list of partners, everyone from the Washington Department of Natural Resources, Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Nature Conservancy, our soil and water conservation districts, the Yakima Nation. We also had Washington Fire Adapted Communities Learning Network, the Kittitas Fire Adapted Communities Coalition, the North Central Washington Forest Health Collaborative, and the Tuppish Sustainable Forest Health Collaborative. And I'm sure there are other partners. Those are just some of the key ones. And a real strength of the project in Central Washington was the well-established collaborative foundations that have been in place, and the various partners that are deeply committed to restoration work at a landscape scale, and continue to be working with the Forest Service and others to further those goals. So in this project, there were 4 large landscapes that were focused on, and moving from south to north, those were the Menashtash-Tatum, the Leavenworth areas, Mazama, and Tonasket. And we're really covering the entire scope of the Okanagan National Forest. And then, of course, the neighboring state and private lands within those landscapes. And so this project really resulted in utilizing the 3 years of funding to reduce the risk of wildfire, protect communities, enhance fish habitat quality, and protect water quality and quantity. And other parts of it were exciting in that there were new partners and landowners that we engaged with that helped achieve restoration goals. And those partnerships are very alive and well today. So some highlights of the projects and things that were planned and experimented with was, first is NEPA, which you did hear a question given to the chief, Chief Christensen, about NEPA. And, we used, at the time, innovative NEPA planning approaches on the forest to analyze the whole watershed across all lands so that it would help support all partners in setting goals and coordinating their actions, all with the intent of increasing the pace, scale, and quality of outcomes. And an outcome of this was some of the great work that you'll be hearing about from Trevor is the state of Washington and the forest entering into good neighbor authority agreements. And that work continues, and we're excited about further expanding those partnerships, because it truly is the way that we want to work here in Central Washington, in close partnership with the state and with shared decision-making and shared stewardship approaches. Another exciting outcome was the Kittitas Fire Adapted Community Coalition. And this was in the Menashtash-Tatum project area. And there's been a variety of projects that the coalition has tackled, everything around fire-wise principles, targeted landowner outreach, increasing public awareness, providing an update to the community wildfire protection plan, and a whole host of education, planning, and technical assistance. There's more than enough work for many years and for many people, in continuing to work with our private landowners on resiliency to adapting to fire-prone landscapes. And we really rely on the passion and commitment of these partners to help us get the word out, help to provide information to private landowners, and just have increased effectiveness of the treatments that occur on state and federal lands. Another outcome that was notable for the past Joint Chiefs project was a threefold increase in thinning on the Tonasket Ranger District, and about 6,000 acres of land being prepared for prescribed fire treatments. As Paul was describing, a lot of our landscapes are very much out of balance and need to have some treatment in order to have them successfully be treated with prescribed fire. And in this part of Washington, our treatment costs per acre for mechanical fuels treatments or hand piling and burning are generally pretty high. And so to make this amount of impact was impressive and very, very much needed, and continues to provide a lot of benefits today for that area. Both the Department of Natural Resources in Washington State and the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife both contributed significant direct and in-kind financial support for this Joint Chief projects. through their state funding, which was primarily from the Forest Health Capital Budget funds that were appropriated by the Washington State Legislature. And a lot of the work that DNR funded in this project was landowner fuel reduction treatments in the Nash-Tashtana, Tonasket, Mazama, and Leavenworth project areas. And again, just a really great example of the private land aspect of the work that is intended to be funded and furthered by the Joint Chiefs. The Cascadia Prescribed Fire Training Exchange, a lot of you may have heard it referred to as TREX. That was something that started as a result of the work folks were doing together in this Joint Chiefs project. And it's a partnership between the Washington Prescribed Fire Council, the Chumstick Wildfire Stewardship Coalition, the Forest Service, and the Nature Conservancy to bring important prescribed fire training to Washington. One of the things that we are always looking for is, to gain an understanding, appreciation, and skill set for applying prescribed fire to the landscape. And this effort really furthered that. A couple of other, like non-fire, non-fuels treatment efforts through this project. First is with partnership from the Yakama Nation and the Mid-Columbia Fisheries Enhancement Group. There was a number of aquatic and watershed restoration projects completed. Fisheries habitat, water quality, and quantity are of primary and crucial importance in this area, and we really were happy to further that work. And last, some human ecology mapping was conducted in this project. That was a way to really look at recreation use and to map those areas and inform decision-making, because there can be conflicts between our aspirations for fish and wildlife habitat and doing that work on the ground. So some of the learnings from that project are, operating in the Northwest Forest Plan landscape, late successional reserve prescriptions and management, dealing with old forest plans, either 1989 or 1990, and then amended by the Northwest Forest Plan, and how to update our information and science to meet current information and needs. Making sure that all our partners are ready and capable. There's some key contributions that our conservation districts can provide in this work, and just figuring out how to fund that work was something that this project tried to navigate. And then, another thing that we're still working on is contracting NEPA. The Forest Service and the Forest are still working very closely together to find ways to do it more nimbly, to learn from efforts that have happened in the past, and to really continue to refine this as a tool for helping us increase the capacity and pace and scale of the actual outcome, which is restoration work on the forest. But the how to get there, the NEPA and other compliance requirements, we're still very much wanting to pursue new approaches and streamlined outcomes there. So again, we're still very much in the conversation stage about what a project might look like in our area of Central Washington. And we, again, have a great foundation in place with our partners and collaboratives. There's already been interest expressed. And we do have a lot of shelf stock on this forest, a lot of fuels work that needs to be done, as well as a lot of aquatic and upland restoration and treating roads to reduce sediment. So over the next few months, that's what we will be doing. We will be talking with our partners about interests and opportunities, and finding ways to creatively partner with them, and hopefully develop a compelling proposal for our forest and our part of the country that will continue to further our joint interests and goals. So with that, I think I'm at my time, and I hope there's a little time for questions. I think Paul Hesper got all the hard ones, so I expect nothing but softballs from you. So back to you, Connie.
Kristin, we do have one question, maybe if you could just answer it quickly.
Mhm.
Is it possible for private landowners to partnership with the Forest Service to treat WUI property to improve forest health on Forest Service lands?
Oh, absolutely. There's the Wyden Amendment Authority, and in fact, we're utilizing that for a prescribed fire project on the Chelan Ranger District here coming up, where the Forest Service is conducting burning on private land. But that's just one way, and that's why this Joint Chiefs is often is also a very great opportunity, because we can go through other agencies, we can use our other partners that may be frankly easier to partner with than the Forest Service in terms of requirements and expectations and matching. And so that this Joint Chiefs brings forward all those opportunities together and really find out where we have willing landowners, what might be the best tool for working with them.
Great. Thank you so much, Kristin.